I want to say to the people watching us live on the internet, good morning. And as usual, it is always good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. You know, the only thing about the people that are online and you can't see what's going on, you really missing this so you can hear the lesson. But in order to get the full effect of it, you're going to have to get a DVD because you're going to need these pictures we have. Now, this is Black History Month, and I want to let you in on a big secret. I do not really like the term Black History Month. The reason is because if somebody come up and say this is White History Month, everybody's going to be all up in there. They racist. So I'm going to tell you something. I do not like this. But being that our history has been so messed up, I just use this to give another lesson in the Bible that need to be done. And one of the reasons is because, and I'm going on this, is because the only history our children know are history of slavery, servitude, and second-handed citizens, if you're a citizen at all. All of your history about somebody being slave, how we was emancipated, and how we had an underground railroad, and how we come up with peanuts and all, peanut butter and all. See, sister and brother, that ain't much of the history. And you are a very young people when your history started at the shores of America. We are a great people, sister and brother. In fact, to tell you the truth, we are the people that this Bible is talking about for the Israelites of the Bible. So we are going to give a 5-part lesson on this. The reason is the Lord put it in my mind a long time ago. To break this thing, I used to have just one lesson called Israel identified through the Scripture. But I had to leave out so many things that we need to know about until the Lord put it in my mind to do this thing thorough, however long it takes. So, you know, this month ain't but 4 weeks, but this lesson is 5 because we are not only about a people, then we are people that's chosen. Everybody tell me, well, those are the chosen people. Nobody ever asked the question, chosen to do what? See, this is the whole thing. But today, we just going to deal with the color part. We're going to show you that it's virtually impossible, according to scriptures and history books, for Israel to be anything other than black, sister and brother. And I'm not teaching it because I have some great black pride. I'm teaching this for the same reason I teach about the great tribulation, born again, speaking in tongues, the resurrection. Why? Because it is a part of the Bible, sister and brother. That's all I'm concerned with. If the Lord have it in there, it needs to be done. Then again, too, if the Lord chose a people, and that's where he chose us, and we're going to show you, to be a priest, then people need to know who the priests are. Amen. It's all that simple. But today, we're dealing black history, told by the prophets, part 1, color. Black history, told by the prophets, part 1, color. So we're going to start in Genesis, the 10th chapter. Genesis, the 10th chapter. This is when Noah and his sons came across the flood. So we're going to go back, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to get some understanding out of this, sister and brother. Because this whole thing is to be taught. And people have been in church all their life and haven't learned any of the Old Testament. Then you have people that are Israelites like myself, haven't read any of the New Testament. You say, well, it's the devil's book. That's why I say I'm old enough to know what's going on, but I'm still young enough to get up here and put it on the table. And I thank God for that. Now we're going to start at Genesis 10 and 1. Genesis 10 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Now these are the sons of Noah, sister and brother. If you was not a part of these three sons and Noah, you don't exist. People trying to say, well, you know, Satan's seed come across the flood. I always ask the question, show him to me. In fact, I used to have an ongoing bet. I remember I told some brothers, some old elder brothers, I ain't going to call their name. One of them dead and the other one, well, with his knowledge, he may as well be. I put the Bible on the table and said, look, I got $100 to anybody that can get Cain's flood, a seed across the flood. After about 2-3 minutes of quietness, one of them finally laughed and said, well, I could use $100, but I can't get a seed across the flood. I said, well, stop talking that crap then. Because that's what it is, sisters and brothers. If you're going to do a doctrine, then why you condemn the people that call themselves Christians? You ain't no better. So now, if you are in existence, you are a descendant of one of these sons, because he never had another child after these 3 boys. Go ahead and read.
2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus.
Go ahead.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Abriphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elishah, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim.
Go ahead.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations.
Now, you just learned something, whether you know it or not. What have you learned? You have been taught all your life that if you ain't a Jew, you're a Gentile. That covers everybody, don't it? It even covers the tribe of Levi.
That's right.
It covers the tribe of Benjamin, Gad, Naphtali, Simeon. Because those are not Jews. The Jews are those that come out of the tribe of Judah. So who are the Gentiles? The sons of Japheth or Japhet. Who are they nowadays? What we call white people or Europeans. If you run all of these names down, you're going to run them into France. You're going to run them into Germany. You're going to run them into Russia. You're going to run them into all Gentiles. These are the white folks. Ain't got nothing to do with Jew. It's have something to do with bloodline. You came out of Japheth's lineage. You are a Gentile. Go ahead and read.
6. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mitzrayim, and Phut and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah, and Saptar and Raamah, and Sapchikah. And the sons of Raamah, Sheba and Dedan.
Now, who is Cush? Nowadays, Cush is Ethiopia. And these are the people that came out of Cush. Go ahead and read.
And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
Now, the one that Nimrod's supposed to be in great honor, he was a Cushite or he was an Ethiopian. Go ahead and read.
Verse 10.
Skip down to verse 10 and go ahead.
And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Iraq, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar.
Now, so who started the tower, the nation of Babylon, Babel? Cush, Nimrod. The first Babylonian sisters and brothers was black people. You ever heard of the great lawgiver they call Hammurabi the lawgiver? Was a black people. He was before the Syrians brought in the Chaldeans, which was white folks, and replaced them. So Nebuchadnezzar was a Gentile, but he is not the original Babylonian. The original Babylonian was the seed of Cush, Ethiopia. Skip down to verse 13. Verse 13 and go ahead.
And Mitzrayim begot Ludum, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim.
Go ahead.
And Paphusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistine.
That's why I want you to read further. Now, you seen the thing about the Philistine? You know, Goliath, he was a Philistine. So when you look at TV, you see this great big old white guy standing against that little old guy David, a little white guy. Whole scene is a lie. Goliath come out of Mizraim, which is an Egyptian.
That's right.
And David come out of Israel, which is Israelite. So the whole scene, sisters and brothers, was wrong. So Mizraim is Ham's second oldest son. And when the Greeks look at the Mizraim, they said, these people are black. So the word for black, Egypt. Then they looked at the Ethiopians and said, these people have burnt faces or burnt skin, from which the word Ethiop, Ethiopia came, because the word for burnt face or skin is Ethiop. They named them by the color. Nowadays, don't nobody pay no attention to it. Nobody's even paid the attention that that Egypt is on the African continent. So now, Ham's oldest son was Shem. That's the one we came out of. The next one, because we want to show you color, is Japhet, and then the next one is Ham, sisters and brothers. Out of which all the people that's called Africans came. And we're going to show you how we interrelate to them. Being that somebody else is calling themselves us, in order for us to find out what we look like, we have to compare ourselves to other people. And this one in particular, we're going to deal with, is going to be Egypt. But let's go first and pick Israel up. Let's go into Genesis, the 37th chapter. We're going to start this with Jacob and his seed. Because in order for us to know anything about anybody, being that we have been lost, we have to find out who we look like. And then we'll know what we look like. Sometimes that's the way you have to do it when you've been lost and cut off and everybody done lied to you.
That's right.
Even your ministers, like the Lord said, they shepherds won't show them no pity.
That's right.
So you have to look around. Because you know Israel has been around in every generation. So you have to see how they interact and what they look like as compared to other people. Now we're going to start this in Jacob and his family, because Jacob, name was Jacob, but the Lord adopted, and we're going to show you that too in another lesson. Israel, and changed his name from Jacob to Israel, which is one of God's names. Genesis 37 and 1. Go ahead.
And Jacob dwelled in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
Go ahead.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding a flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now
see, Jacob was in the land of Canaan, sister and brother. That's Ham's fourth son, the one that the Lord, Noah cursed. People tell you why he cursed Ham. No, he didn't curse Ham. He cursed Noah's fourth son, which had Ham's fourth son, which had never been born yet, which was Canaan. And we know what his curse is, but that is not a part of this lesson. So now he had his younger son, Joseph, which was 17 years old, always was telling on people. This is snitch. That's why it's evil report. They didn't like him for that. Go ahead and read.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age.
Go ahead.
And he made him a coat of many colors.
That may have another reason they hated him. Go ahead and read.
And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him.
So now Joseph was real hated for two reasons. Because his father made a difference with him, and another word, he always blowing the whistle on somebody. Skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I.
So now, his brothers way off in another little county somewhere feeding the flock. And so Jacob's going to send Joseph down there to see how they doing. But they took advantage of that opportunity to get rid of him. Skip down to verse 18. Verse 18 and go ahead.
And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him.
They hated this guy, their own young brother. So when they saw him coming, they said, we're going to kill him. But one of his brothers wanted to deliver him. Skip down to verse 21 and go ahead.
And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him.
Go ahead.
And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again.
So now he had to be deceptive with them. Look, let's don't kill him, just put him in the pit. Let him die. You know, we don't shed no blood. But he said, when the time comes, he's going to sneak around and steal his boy out there and tell his daddy, look, don't send this boy out here no more. They want to kill him. But something happened. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass when Joseph was coming to his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat, his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it.
Ain't that something? They took that special coat off, and then they threw him in a pit with no water. They was intent for this young man to die. 17 years old he was, but they hated him. What verse?
That was 24.
Go ahead. That was 24. Skip down to verse 28. Verse 28, and go ahead.
Then there passed by Canaanites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt.
Now, Israelites, those are the sons of Ishmael. Nowadays, they call them Arab sisters and brothers. So he picked him up and he sold him to the Ishmaelites. So now, who are the first was early involved in slavery? Arabs always been a part of it, sister and brother. That's why I can't understand how a lot of people always going and grabbing and holding on to somebody. I said to myself, do you know who you're holding on to? So they sold him to the Israelites. What verse?
Verse 29.
Go ahead and read.
And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes.
Now, when he got there, he wasn't there, so he rent his clothes. Now, let's see what the Ishmaelites did to him with it. Skip down to verse 36 and read it.
And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
So now, Ishmaelites went on down. These are from Midian, but they're Arabs, and they went on down and they sold him to an Egyptian captain. They sold him. So the whole thing is, you're looking at the first time anybody representing Israel was sold, sisters and brothers. Well, we've been involved with being sold for a long time. Yes, now let's go and see what happened what happened to Joseph. Now he's been sold to an Egyptian captain, and the Lord blessed this guy's house because of Joseph. Like everywhere we go, the Lord blesses him because we give all that free labor, cheap labor. Same as in this country. But let's go into Genesis the 9th chapter. Genesis 39. And we're going to start at verse 1. Genesis 39 and verse 1. 39 and 1. Okay, read it.
And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither.
So now, the Egyptian bought him from the Ishmaelites. The Egyptian bought him from the Arabs. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian.
Go ahead.
And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand.
Now, everything that Joseph did, the Lord made prosper. In fact, his master started getting rich because he was there. Skip down to verse 7 and go ahead.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. And she said, lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master would have not was with me in the house, and he have committed all that he have to my hand.
He said, look, so all of a sudden the master's wife looking at this Hebrew slave, and she wanted to get into bed with him. But he being a man of God, hey, no, I ain't going there. Say everything my master gave me, then put me over, but he didn't put me over you. I ain't going there. The woman kept on and kept on and kept on, and he kept resisting and resisting, and eventually she moved against him. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12, and go ahead.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
So now finally she grabbed him by his gown or whatever he had on, said, lie with me. The man ran out of the house and left it in her hand. So now look what's going to happen because he had to do that. Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16. And go ahead.
And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying,
go ahead.
The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me.
Ain't that something? Now she can't, and how many times a lot of us have died because we wouldn't go somewhere we shouldn't go. And somebody lied on us. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled. And it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison.
Ain't that something? Man hadn't done nothing. But what happened was because he wouldn't go with her, she took the opportunity to lie, and the master didn't even try, didn't even investigate. He mad because you got the nerve and put the man in prison. But Joseph still had the Lord on his side. Let's go into Genesis the 49th chapter now. Genesis the 41st chapter. 41st chapter of Genesis. Because when Joseph was in jail, the warden of the jail liked him. Mm-hmm. Then he put him in charge. So he made him a trustee. And after a while he was trustee, Pharaoh had put two of his servants in jail. The baker and the winemaker? The cupbearer. And they both had dreams. And Joseph told them they dreamed. And it fell just the way they said it would fall. Then, one of them, they hung, Pharaoh hung, and the other one he freed. So Joseph told him, look, will you remember me when you go before Pharaoh? Tell him I'm a Hebrew and I ain't done nothing to nobody. Mm-hmm. And I'm in slavery. I'm in slavery for nothing. I'm innocent. God said, okay, but he forgot it. Verse 1. Now this is when Pharaoh had a dream. And but this servant had forgotten about Joseph. And this is a long time too. We're going to show you what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and read. Verse 1.
And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river.
Now this 2 full years after this guy had gotten out of jail. Mm-hmm. So Pharaoh had a dream. Go ahead and read.
And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat flesh. And they fed in the meadow.
Go ahead.
And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river.
Now, Joseph saw 7 real fat and robust cows come up out the river, and then he saw some real sick cows come up out the river. He says 7 of them. What happened with this? Go ahead and read.
4. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh wrote.
So he woke up. All of a sudden, them ill-favored and sick cows ate up the fat and robust cows. But he didn't see no difference in it. So he woke up, and quite naturally, you didn't have a dream, you're going to go to your wise people to get the answer.
That's right.
So he's going to go to his wise people. Skip down to verse 8, and go ahead.
And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream.
Go ahead.
But there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
Now, he didn't think about this, the captive. He went to all his wives, the people that have the reputation for being wise and answering all kind of dreams and having all kind of knowledge. He sent to them first, but they couldn't answer this system, brother. They couldn't. You know why? Because it's from God, and God chose a people to answer his question. And if you wasn't one of those people, you couldn't answer it when God would send a message to somebody. Now let's keep reading. Go ahead.
Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day.
Go ahead.
Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house. Both me and the chief baker.
All of a sudden now, the cupbearer remembered his faults. Because he know if he could tell Pharaoh this, he might get him something out of it. So he put us in jail. And what happened? Go ahead and read.
Verse 12.
Keep reading through 11.
Okay. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dream. To each man according to his dream he did interpret.
No, and then he told him, so look, you had a young Hebrew in there that was serving the captain of the guard because he had made him a trustee. So we had a dream. This guy told us our dream, and it fell exactly the way we said it would fall. Skip down to verse 14. Now, what did Pharaoh do now? Because remember now, he had all his wise men, the people that had great notoriety for answering a lot of stuff, but they couldn't do nothing. So, okay, he's going to send in prison and get a captain. Go ahead and read.
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in under Pharaoh.
So now, you know, like sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. Israel wore beards. But this case, hey, you finna go before Pharaoh, you know. So he shaved himself, and he came before Pharaoh. Now let's see what happened when he got there. What verse was that?
That was 14.
Go ahead and read.
15. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it.
Go ahead.
And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Now see, Joseph let him know, hey, it's not for me, man. I don't have this, but this answer you want, God is going to give it to you.
That's right.
Because the Lord have a message that he wanted to give to Pharaoh. So Joseph said, God's going to give you an answer. Let's skip down and look at this thing. Skip down to verse 29 and go ahead.
Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt.
So these 7 fat cows that you see, that means Egypt is going to have 7 years of great plenty. I mean, you're going to have bumper crops. Everything is going to be producing for you. Go ahead and read.
And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine.
And they're going to rise after them 7 years of famine. Go ahead.
And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt.
And all the stuff that you have accomplished in the land of Eden is going to be forgotten. There's going to be a great big a drought in the land. I mean, everything going to go down, no matter what it is. Skip down to verse 33 and go ahead.
Now, therefore, let Pharaoh look out at this man, discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years.
He said, now what you do, Pharaoh, you set up a discreet and wise man, and then you put some people under him, and let them take advantage of this great land of plenty. So why are we having bumper crops? Say, go ahead and read.
And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the city. And that food shall be restored to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt. And the land perish not through the famine. He
said, now what you do is you get you some smart people, get a smart man, a discreet, put him over it, give him some help, and let him gather food and corn all over Egypt and store it up and be prepared for the bad 7 years. What did Pharaoh do with Joseph? Skip down to verse, what was that?
36.
Skip down to verse 39 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
Ain't that something? He said, since God has showed to you, who's wiser than you? Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
He said, I'm going to put you over my house, and according to whatever you said, Joseph, all my people shall be ruled. I'm going to tell you something. Look at all them people that messed over Joseph, this lying woman. I know she was sweating. What verse?
Verse 40.
Go ahead.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck.
He's not so. He said, now I done put you over all of Egypt, over all of Egypt. In other words, you got this slave, he'd come to the next ruler.
That's right.
Now this is a guy that all he knew was slavery. Skip down to verse 45, and let's see what has happened to him. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zapnath-Paneah.
They always give you a name after their God, sisters and brothers. You remember Roots when they made this guy be called Toby? You know, you get rid of your own name, and you lose whatever connection you got with the family that you come from.
That's right.
Because each one of us come out of a family on this earth, sisters and brothers. So he gave him his own name. Go ahead. Wanted a name after his God. Go ahead.
And he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah,
go ahead,
priest of On.
And he gave him a wife, the daughter of the priest, which is priest of On. So now, let us know. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt.
So now, Joseph had been promoted to the top spot in Egypt, and he'd been given an Egyptian wife. Now remember, Joseph now, he married an Egyptian, so Ephraim and Manasseh's mother was Egyptian. But keep your finger here. We're coming right back, because I want to show you where Israel got their wives from, sisters and brothers. We're coming right back here. Let's go into Genesis, the 38th chapter. But we're going to come right back here. See, what we are showing you, that everything we show you, once you get through with this, you will say, it is impossible for Israel or the Jew to be white. Virtually impossible. We are not doing this out of vindictiveness. We are just stating facts.
That's right.
That's like when I tell somebody when they say, well, I talked to my mama last night. Oh, what you do? You visit your mama? No, my mama died 20 years ago. I said, it is impossible for you to talk to your mama last night. Mm-hmm. In other words, sisters and brothers, we just dealing with facts. We ain't dealing with beliefs or emotion. Matters of fact. 38-1. 38-1. But we're getting back there. I just want to show you where Israel, the old timers, got their wives from. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass at that time that Joseph went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira.
Go ahead.
And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name
So now, this is where he got his wife. Well, let's see. Now, did he go to another country? Skip down to verse 6 to get his son, a wife. Verse 6, read it.
And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's
Now that's enough. Now this girl Tamar is the one. Her husband died. Okay, it was a custom in Israel. If your husband died, your brother, and you didn't have no child, your brother had to have a child back. So the brother, he lay with the woman, but before he could come to what he was supposed to, he did something real stupid and put it in the dirt. The Lord got mad and killed him. So eventually, this girl ended up having twins by Jacob, by Judah. You know why? It's because he promised her. He promised her the next son. But then the son got up and went on about it. So the woman saw that he done forgot about the promise. She put on a prostitute's outfit and waited on it. And Judah bought her. But he said, what you do is, she said, you got to give me a token, his staff and his signet. So now when the woman come up pregnant, they told Judah, oh, there ain't going to be no whoredom in Israel, burn her. She said, I want you to show him, give him these are the ones to whom it belonged to. See, because he sent his friend back with money to retrieve his staff and his signet. But she wasn't there. So when he looked at it, he saw the woman had been more righteous than I. In other words, Judah was going to burn her for whoredom, but he wouldn't burn himself for whoremongering, would he? I'm just letting you know how people can be sometimes. That's why the Lord took the judgment out of the hand of man when they brought that woman before him. Because we are good judges as long as somebody else bleeds, but when it comes to us, we want mercy. But anyway, so we just went there to show one thing, that the other brothers got their wives from among the sons of Canaan. Ham's daughters of Canaan, Ham's oldest, youngest son. And where did Joseph get him from? He got his from Ham's second oldest son, Mizraim, which is Egypt. Now let's go back to Genesis 41st chapter. Because I want you to look at this, sister and brother. We'll learn a few things on our way to learning something. 41, and we're going to start at verse 47. Genesis 41 and verse 47. Because now the famine set in all over the world. Go ahead and read.
And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by a handful.
Now, the earth really produced the 7 plenteous years. Let's skip down to verse 53. Verse 53, and go ahead.
And the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread.
Ain't that something? Now the 7 good years passed, and the 7 bad years, the famine coming in, all over Egypt. In fact, it was all over the area, period. All the other nations, even in the land of Canaan. But there was bread in Egypt. So let's see how Israel weighed in on this, sisters and brothers, because this thing had set in. Skip down to verse, let's go into Genesis, the 42nd chapter. Genesis chapter 42. And we're going to start now, because now everybody is under the famine now. Egypt is under famine. The land of Canaan is under famine. Everybody is getting hungry now. So now here Jacob, the father of Israel. Go ahead and read. Verse 1, 42 and 1. Go ahead.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt.
Go ahead.
Get ye down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die.
He said, now I done heard. Now everybody was under the famine. I done heard there's corn in Egypt, so y'all get on down there and get us something to eat. Otherwise, we're going to die like everybody else. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt.
Now, when these guys went down to buy corn, they ran into a little problem. Skip down to verse 7. Verse 7 and go ahead.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food.
Now, he knew them, but they didn't know him. So he was talking real rough to them. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come.
Ain't that something? Go ahead and read.
And they said unto him, nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants come.
You know, because he had a dream that they were going to be bound down to him. And that was happening. No, he said, y'all spies. You didn't come to see how the land is in trouble, so y'all will know how to attack it. They called him, nay, my Lord. They didn't recognize him. I guess not. When they sold him, he was 17 years old. Now, he didn't take over Egypt until he was 30. And then another 30 bad years that passed, that made him 37.
Yeah, that's right.
So he was at least 37 years old. But when they sold him, he wasn't but 17. They didn't have a clue who he was. So he was talking rough, and they were scared. Go ahead and read.
11. We are all one man's son. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies.
He said, we're true men. We ain't no spies. I mean, they're really begging. Skip down to verse 18. And go ahead.
And Joseph said unto them the third day, this do and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the family of your houses, but bring your young.
Look, you be true men? Well, okay, then I'm going to prove it. I'm going to bind one of y'all and put him in prison. And if y'all be true men, get on down there and do what you need to do. But what happened was, finally, he couldn't deal with it no longer. But skip down to verse, what was the last verse at?
That was verse 20.
Let's keep reading. Verse 21.
We had 20 now.
Go ahead and read.
But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so.
Now, they didn't want to do that, but go ahead and read.
And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us.
Now all of a sudden they remember. So now, we didn't know this was Joseph, but they saying, look, the reason we got this problem here is because what we did with Joseph. When we sold him to the Israelites and the Arabs, we could see the anguish on his face. But we had no pity. We sold him anyway. Now, payday is coming. Go ahead and read.
22. And Reuben answered them, saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and you would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required.
Ain't that something? Go ahead.
And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
And they didn't know. Remember now, this is their blood brother. They didn't recognize him. They actually thought he was an Egyptian. So how could Joseph pass for an Egyptian unless he looked like an Egyptian?
That's right.
They could have said, well, you know, man, what is this Hebrew Israelite doing talking so crazy to us? You must think he up there or something because he done been promoted to a high position. No, he didn't do that. They thought that this guy was an Egyptian. Let's go into Genesis, the 45th chapter, because we want to because we're just dealing with colors. We have to do this, sisters and brothers, so we'll know what we look like by identifying what other people look like. 45, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Finally, Joseph reveal himself to him. 45 and 1. Go ahead and read.
Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all of them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren.
So he told all the Egyptians to leave, because he wanted, and he started crying out, and then he revealed himself to his brothers. But his brothers got a little scared there. Go ahead and read.
And he wept aloud. And the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh of the house of Pharaoh heard him. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doeth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence.
You got that right. You done sold this cat when he was 17? And it had been revealed to him also that you wanted to kill him? I'd be troubled too. They couldn't open their mouth. He says, my father living. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Ain't
that something? He's something to him. I'm the one that you sold. Go ahead and read.
Now therefore, be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that you sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life.
See, and then he told him, he saw what was going on. He said, don't be grieved or angry with yourself. You might have had your intention, but God is the one that orchestrated this whole thing.
That's right.
Even with the coat of many colors, and your daddy making an exception, because he had to create this attitude in your mind so you would do what you're doing. Because he sent me to save life.
That's right.
See, sometimes, sister and brother, when things are a little rough on you, and you're going through it, maybe the Lord got something he want to do with you. And he preparing you for it. This is what people don't understand. Everything hard is not always bad. Sometimes it's the very thing you need. So he sent me to save life. Skip down to verse 9 and read it.
Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph,
Go ahead.
God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not.
Now he knew who put him over Egypt, didn't he? Go tell Daddy that God has made me put me over all Egypt. I want you to come to me. Don't wait. So they went and told the daddy. Skip down to verse 28. Verse 28, and go ahead.
And Israel said, It is enough.
That's his father's name. That's Jacob. His name was Israel. He had been adopted. His name changed. He said, It is enough. Go ahead and read.
Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die.
So now, Joseph went down. So Jacob, which is Israel, went down into Egypt to see Joseph. And he stayed down there, and he got old, and he died in Egypt. Let's go into Genesis, the 50th chapter. Genesis, the 50th chapter. Because if we don't do it this way, we always be looking and we always be wondering, who are we? After the day, you're going to know who you are. After this series, you're going to really know who you are and what you were chosen for and what you're supposed to do. 50 and 1, or 50 and 11, or 5 rather. Now, old man Jacob died. Old man Jacob died, the 5th verse. We're going to start 50 and verse 5. Jacob died down there, and when he died, he had already made Joseph the promise that he would not bury him in Egypt. I want you to take me back to Canaan and bury me. So when he died, Joseph told Pharaoh, I got to keep this promise that I made to my dad. Verse 5, go ahead.
My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die, in my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again.
Now he said, let me go down there and bury Dad, and I'll come again, because he made me promise. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, according as he had made thee swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt.
Now look who went up with him now. Remember, Joseph was the top man in Egypt. He was actually, except for in the throne, he was the king of Egypt. So when he went up to bury his father, all of the dignitaries, a great big crowd of people, Egyptians, went up with him. But also, all of the house of Israel went up to him, except for the children. Go ahead and read.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren, and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen.
Go ahead.
And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen. And it was a very great company.
Go ahead.
And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days.
Now, when they got there, they made a great big mourning. I mean, this is a big hoop, a great big crowd of people, Israelites and Egyptians, for 7 days. So when the Canaanites saw him, what did they say? Go ahead and read.
And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians.
This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians and the Israelites.
Nope, Egyptian.
They just say Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and read.
Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond Jordan.
Therefore it's called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And Abel Mizraim means the morning of Egyptian. So all the Canaanites saw was Egyptian, sisters and brothers. So you don't know. You see we got these pictures here? You want to look at Egyptian? This is the throne room of Tutankhamun. I'm going to read this. When the tomb of the Egyptian king Tutankhamun was discovered, virtually intact in the 1920s, it yielded a breathtaking collection of art from the 14th century BC, just a few years before the Exodus. This is going to mean a whole lot when we get further into this thing, sisters and brothers. This is Tutankhamun. What did it look like? This is Tutankhamun. Here, a head statue of him. What did it look like? They show the skull crack. What's that under there? Cornrows, ain't it? This is Queen Tai, Tutankhamun's grandmother. But these are Egyptians you're looking at here.
That's right.
Don't look like the people that call themselves Jews nowadays, do they? But I'm saying a picture speaks louder than 1,000 words.